YouTube, it's your girl Nurse Nell, and welcome back to my channel. I really apologize because I have not been posting as much as I thought I could or would. A lot of my videos that I recorded previously, I'm like, don't really like them. Re-record them, don't really like them. And then I'm like, okay, I really need to record this video because I promised you guys that I was going to do it. I get a lot of questions about studying all the time. If you haven't seen my recent IGTV video about studying and the studying process, I would encourage you to go over to Instagram and check that video out because I go over the studying process and not how you should study, but how you should approach studying and the steps that you need to take in the same way that you would do the nursing process. So it's really easy to understand those concepts and apply it to studying instead of just nursing. So in this video, I want to go over my top 10 studying tips. And then in subsequent videos, it's probably going to be some type of series because there's just so much to talk about studying. So for this one, let's just do the top 10 studying tips that I have for you guys. First things first, you really need to assess what type of learner you are. Do you like listening to lectures? Do you need to read? Do you like pictures? Videos? Are you a kinetic type of learner? You really need to understand what type of learner you are before you can really start the studying process. If you don't know how you learn best, how are you going to maximize your time and utilize that time most efficiently? Because you have a lot to study and you really want to hone in on how you learn best so you're not wasting time doing things that's not going to be beneficial for you. For me, I definitely enjoy reading, but in addition to just reading something, I need a picture or a video. So once I'm done reading or skimming my chapters, I definitely go online and I look for a picture, I look for a video of what I just read so that I can connect the dots. And then when I get into clinical or simulation, I can connect the dots even further. Sometimes I re-listen to lectures, especially for those things that I need to, like I've missed in class or I need to review or something like that. So I'm definitely a combo learner. There's not just one way that works best for me, especially it depends on the topic. So I kind of do a multimodal approach when it comes to learning. Number 2 is another tip that I utilize throughout nursing school as well, and that's to skim read first. And when I talk about studying and utilizing your time, this is how you're going to utilize your time more wisely. When I started nursing school, I would read the entire chapter. I would highlight and do all these things. And then I realized I really wasn't retaining the information because I didn't have that lecture portion that I can connect the dots with. So my initial reading of the chapter, I'm going to be skimming. I'm going to be looking for those bolded headings and look at those things so I know those main topics that I should be focusing on, because sometimes you don't know what's important and what's not important until you get to class. So prior to class, you're going to skim read that chapter. Look at those key points and kind of guide your reading based on those key points in the beginning and then some of the core concepts that you'll see at the end of the chapter so that you're able to hone in on those things that might be more important. After class is when you're going to do your more in-depth reading so you can review what you've read. And I found that skimming the chapter allows me to associate things much better because I've seen it before. I might not completely understand it prior to walking into class, but it helps me associate things. When I get into class and they're lecturing and she's talking about something or he's talking about something, I'm like, oh, I remember that. I remember that word. I remember that concept. And then those things, I connect the dots that way. So I kind of talked about number 3 and number 2, but you're going to take those cues from class. So once you've skimmed, you're going to look back and say, oh, that's what they talked about. That's not what they talked about. I'm going to focus my reading on those topics because they didn't cover that topic or they told me in class that that's something that I didn't have to know or something that's not important on the test. So you're going to take those cues from class when you do your second reading afterwards. Number 4 is take little chunks at a time. A lot of people like to say, oh, I've been sitting here, I've been studying for 12, 14 hours. I studied all day. But you have to realize and learn how that your brain functions and works. And sometimes sitting there for hours upon hours upon hours is not good for your retention of the information. You have to take breaks and you have to break things up. If I have multiple chapters that I need to read, I look at how much time I have to read those chapters. If it's a few days, we break it up into a few days. If it's a week, we break it up into a week, so that I'm looking at the information over a course, a period of time, instead of trying to read it all at once, because you cannot digest everything at once. Number 5 is to utilize outside sources. We all know that we have a textbook that we've been assigned, it's in our syllabus, but sometimes the way one textbook says something, you might not understand it. You need to look at a different textbook. So for anesthesia school, I utilize this a lot. The way Nagelhout says something, I might understand that better than the way that Miller says it, or something else, or a study guide that I've looked at. So make sure you utilize outside sources that are credible to be able to help you understand those concepts more effectively. I don't even know what number I'm on. I think it's 6, but utilize study groups. I personally don't particularly like study groups, just because the way that I learn and the way that my brain functions, I realized that quickly that I can't do study groups. Some people really benefit from study groups, whether it's a small group, 1 or 2 people, or a larger group, like with your entire class. But study groups are a great way for you to be able to learn that information, bounce ideas off of each other, see how other people are learning the information, and it can definitely be beneficial for you to kind of test your knowledge as well. Your downtime is your study time. So when I say downtime, I'm not talking about your free time outside of, class and clinical and things like that. I'm talking about when you're standing in line at the grocery store. The line is super long. Sometimes I whip out my phone and I do board preparation right on my phone. Oh, I'm in the car driving somewhere, I'm in the passenger seat, I'm going to be reviewing some things. I'm waiting for my dinner at a restaurant. Sometimes I pull out my book and I read that. So those little downtime moments should be, sometimes where you can just pull out some anesthesia related, some nursing related things that you can utilize, so that you're refreshing your memory, you're refreshing those concepts over and over again during the time that you probably wouldn't be doing something beneficial. Make sure you take breaks. Please take breaks. There's a method, the Pomodoro method, where you study for like 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break. That works for some people, but you really need to make sure when you're planning your study time that at least every hour you get up, go to the bathroom, drink some water, eat a snack, and then go back to studying. I find that if I, sit around too long while I'm studying, then I get bored and I start distracting myself with other things. Last couple points, you really want to understand the concepts and not memorize it. I feel like I did a lot of memorizing in nursing school. For example, I knew that metoprolol was going to cause my heart rate to go down because it works on beta. I'm like, okay. Beta 2, lungs, you have 2 lungs. Beta 1, heart, you have 1 heart. And I'm like, great, I know something. I know a receptor. And then I get into anesthesia school and I'm like, wait, so beta is like other places too? It works on other things as well? Utilizing this medication is not cardioselective, but this one is, and things like that. So it's a much deeper thing, and it's a way of learning where you're not just memorizing these concepts, you're understanding them, so that if you're giving like albuterol that your heart rate is going to go up, not because it's just a side effect of albuterol. You understand the mechanism behind why the albuterol works on the beta 2 and also on the beta 1, which is going to cause that increase in your heart rate. So you're like, oh, you can now put things together. You understand it so that you're able to talk about it. So you need to talk these things out, work these things out, write it out, however you learn best. You really need to make sure you understand what's going on, understand the why behind things, instead of just reviewing things over and over again, just memorizing stuff, because that's not going to help you out, because your memory, I realize you don't hold too much. But when you understand things, even if you don't necessarily remember it per se, when you're posed with a question, because you have a background, a foundation, understanding, you're able to get through more difficult questions because you have that understanding of the material, and it's not just like, oh, I forgot. You have something to fall back on when you understand the material and the concepts. And lastly, number 10 is reward yourself. I reward myself for having a good study session. And I plan my day, my times out by, if you get this done, if you get that done, then you can go do something else. If you don't get it done, you can't go. So I always find some type of way, and I try not to be like candy or like cookies and junk food or whatever. But I find out that, the incentive portion of things, it really helps me stay focused and stay on track, because I know that I'm going to be able to do something that I want to do if I get my stuff done. So those are all the tips that I have for you, my top 10 studying tips. Look out for more videos about studying certain topics in anesthesia school, how I personally study, the technology that I utilize in class and at home for studying. So look out for those videos soon. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram for my daily clinical chronicles in the car, and some other fun stuff that I do on there, like giveaways. But you can follow me on IG at I am Nurse Nell. And I thank you guys for watching this video, and I look forward to making some more videos for you guys about studying. Thanks for watching.